F1 in Italy is like religion almost. The rest of the world shares the same sentiment that we do, I guess. There was a huge decline in viewership. Germany was like 21%, France was 40, kind of coming reminiscent almost of like Formula E with an engine.
And Max has been extremely outspoken about how much he dislikes these new cars.
Their necks are just as wide as their head because being able to keep your head up to just see into the corner to make it, it's insane.
The heat that's generated around the driver and everything. That's why they have those dry ice blowers on them. The best description I can give it is it's like running a marathon in a sauna. All right, we are back for another episode of the Money Shift podcast. This is episode number 36. And today I am joined by our newest teammate. Many of you know him by now, Slava, who is also a mega F1 fan, and Gary, aka Iron Maiden. And today we are going to be deep diving into everything to expect for the upcoming Miami Grand Prix, given that there are a lot of new updates over the last month, that there were no races, that we had a little bit of a forced break. There's been some major rule changes, which I think are very much needed, but we'll see if they're sufficient, that are going into effect for the Miami Grand Prix coming up this weekend. So we're going to be taking a look at that. Also, we will be diving into some of the latest updates from the Driven Vehicles app, and just generally hanging out and talking to F1. So yeah, good to see you guys. Thanks for joining yet again. And how you doing today?
Thanks, Rex. Yeah, super excited about the rule changes. It's been a little stagnant this year, so excited to get into that and be back to race weekend again.
Yeah, definitely excited for that. Gary, you going to be watching this weekend?
Will actually, yeah, definitely. Finally, somewhere more around our time zone. So that's going to be a good one. I don't have to like wake up at an odd hour. So
Yeah,
I'll be tuning into that one. Yeah.
nice. Yeah. Well, we got to find some viewing parties and pop them into the Driven Vehicles map. People around the country can go and hang out with other fans to watch the race, because it's always better to watch F1 with a crew of people that are into it, and always to get those inter-team rivalries going.
Yeah, who are you rooting for?
I don't know. I haven't figured out who my team is.
Oh yeah, no, not at all. I see.
No.
Yeah, well, we'll see. Red Bull's been struggling a little bit, so
They have.
I guess we can
Yeah.
get into that a little bit.
Just want to ask a couple of questions from you guys. Curious who your team, who your driver is, and maybe a little bit of a background into like when you started getting into F1 yourself. We'll go with Slava first.
Oh, sure. Yeah. I got into F1 through a friend of mine, actually, that I grew up with. He used to be really into motorsports, and he took a trip, like a Euro trip out with his family, and they went to a F1 race. And I will never forget the face and the expression that he had when he was telling me the sound of the engines, because it was V10s back then. So it wasn't the stuff we're going through now. So it was just the passion and like the explosive, like he couldn't breathe when he was telling me. He was like, Slava, it was so impressive. And like the cars were going by you and your body is shaking and you're like, people shouldn't be going this fast around a corner. And we just started playing like the Formula One games and trying to understand what, a racing line was and what the apex is, and then slowly understanding like what the rules were. So that was my like first introduction into F1. And I seriously started watching it, I'd say about 7 years ago.
Okay.
And when I first started watching, it was, Lewis Hamilton was winning. And then slowly Max Verstappen started coming up. And then, I've been watching him from being a rookie in the AlphaTauri team, and then slowly going up to, the main team. Well, not very slowly. He was quickly promoted to the main team, kicking, Daniel Kvyat out, taking his race seat, and then later taking his wife. But it was definitely interesting to watch Max kind of evolve from like the young, hot-headed talent that he was to this calculated precision machine that he is now. Like everyone knew that he was talented beyond anyone else on the grid at the time. I still believe that he's more talented than Hamilton is, although I do believe both of them are more talented than the rest of the grid. And I think we saw that during their rivalry. Like they would be a tenth of a second away from each other at the finish line, but everyone else was like 15 seconds or 20 seconds behind. So they were just in the league of their own. So just watching that and understanding the engineering and how engineering, affects the car, and really watching Red Bull and the way that they changed the ethos of garage culture in F1, and just like the way that they operated wasn't that clean cut, like classy F1 that was before their time. Like they were known to like play loud music in their garage and be the loud team that didn't care and said whatever they wanted. So it kind of resonated with me being a young, man in New York City, where everything is middle finger to the world and blah, blah, blah. So really loved Red Bull, loved watching Max come up and become the champion that he is now. But if I was to pick like my favorite driver on the grid now, it would still be Alonso. Like him coming back and getting into the Aston Martin and still doing magical things with it brings back those old memories of like the golden era of F1, I would say. And I'm just looking forward to like maybe the regulations bringing back some more
Excitement.
cylinders.
More cylinders down the road. Yeah, when they
into-
decide that batteries aren't sufficient for making fun races.
I don't know if it's necessarily making fun races or not, but it's the fact that I can appreciate a electric engine being good for a road car because it'll last longer. You're using it for at least 10 years, hopefully, if everything holds up. But like you're not racing the car more than that year. Like you're going through engines in the same year. So like the amount of resources that it takes to make an EV and make a V8 is pretty similar. So like I think we could probably get some V8s and V10s back at the same footprint that they have now without them worrying about going too off the board with their carbon concerns.
Yeah, my vote is V10 with a good KERS system. So they still have a little bit of battery to play with, but they're not dependent on it. But that's just me.
So my team of choice would probably be Red Bull still, but I've been watching McLaren with Norris for a little while Norris was coming up, and I felt like he just deserved the time to win. So it's between McLaren and Red Bull, just because I enjoyed the two teams, and Alonso's still my favorite driver, so I always root for him.
All right. Yeah, I think that's a fair position to have. My two favorite teams are Red Bull and McLaren, and similarly, Max Verstappen and Lando Norris. So I actually didn't realize that we were so aligned on who we root for. But yeah, I want to go ahead and shoot it over to Gary. I know we're still getting you kind of up to speed on the F1 stuff, because honestly, there is a steep learning curve to get into this sport. It's not balls and strikes and three bases. It's quite a bit more than that. So, kind of curious what your journey has been getting into F1.
Yeah, as far as the technical stuff, not really. I wasn't really too familiar with, the lexicon and things like that in details. But as far as like F1, I do recall like maybe when I was 13, 14, I remember Juan Pablo Montoya. My parents were a big fan of Juan Pablo Montoya. I'm thinking, who's this guy? So we were watching, and I recall, because I can recall when he won, I think it was the Italian Grand Prix that he won in 2002. I think it was 2002, 2000. I don't recall exactly.
My memory is not that good. Don't worry about it.
But I do remember Juan Pablo Montoya, and we're like, oh.
Yeah, he was great. He was an amazing driver. He was an amazing driver.
Okay. Yeah, so I do recall that. And from there, I actually started liking, not just motorsports, but F1 as well. But as far as the details, as you pointed out, I wasn't really too familiar until I started playing some video games. And then when I got into the Web3 space, being part of the Motorverse team, that's when they had the IP rights to the F1 game and, all the assets. I'm pretty sure you were out.
The game that will not be.
Exactly. I think you're a holder of those assets as well at the moment. So ever since I joined Animoca, then I had to sharpen a little bit on the skills of knowing what exactly F1 is and, the layouts of the tracks. Exactly. So it was pretty fun, and being part of the Driven Labo team and being here as well is pretty fun. Knowing every time that there's a Grand Prix, oh yeah, we gotta select who's gonna be the driver, who's gonna win, who's going to which team is going to take the most points and stuff like that. So far, I mean, I'm just a fan. I'm not exactly as far as well versed in what driver, the stats and all that. I'm just a fan, and definitely I know it's an experience, and definitely in seeing all the motorsport fans raving about it, talking about it, and coming together, as you pointed out. Going to the bars and having a good time cheering for their team and their driver. Oh, it's a great place, a great vibe, and a great being part of that type of community. So
Mhm.
yeah.
Nice, nice. Yeah. I think once you start getting a little bit more into the technicals and the strategy, that's
Mhm.
where it becomes even more entertaining because to the average person that's watching it, yeah, it can be exciting. You got your team or your driver you're rooting for. But then when you actually know a little bit about strategy or like the engineering behind it, you're analyzing everything that they're doing and you're like, no, you should have pitted 2 laps ago. What are you doing? Or like, missed your window or like, why'd you go on those on hards instead of softs or mediums or whatever. So yeah, it's that's where it gets really exciting, but you also have to have spent a couple of seasons really following it before you get to that point.
Right, right, correct,
Yeah.
correct.
But on that note, I do want to go ahead and bring this up. So we, in our daily driven newsletter, I do like to cover F1. So the newsletter is really everything that's happening within the last week in car culture and goes out every Saturday morning. And you'll often find I usually squeeze in something F1 related in here because I'm just that big of a fan. But the big news this week coming up for the Miami Grand Prix are the changes to the formula, as it were, the regulations and engineering or technicals of the cars to hopefully improve some problems that have really been holding this season back. And that's not just the performance of the cars, but it's also made the season a little less interesting to watch. And Slava, I think you had pulled up a stat about even the viewership dropping. And I think it's probably very much in large part due to the fact that these new regulations have just really taken some of the excitement out of the races. What was that stat you found?
Yeah, it was on average like 40% decline in viewership.
That's
Germany was
huge.
like 21%, France was 40, Spain was like almost 50% at 49%. So there was a huge decline in viewership. The only place that it actually increased was Italy, and it's probably because of Kimi Antonelli being a rookie driver and performing well for
Yeah.
Mercedes. There hasn't been a well-performing Italian for a while, so they're really rooting for him. I mean, F1 in Italy is like a religion almost.
Oh, yeah.
So the Tifosi there are really gun ho about having a Italian driver winning right now. So they're watching.
And
But
currently in the championship lead.
yes, he is. You're right,
Yeah.
and he's in the lead. Thank you. But I don't know. The rest of the world shares the same sentiment that we do, I
Mhm.
guess, where it's like it has made racing or F1 racing not what we're used to. Like it kind of becoming reminiscent almost of like Formula E with an engine because of the way that boosts were assigned and the way that they're harvesting energy now, the difference in the power that they had that we saw. So I'm hoping that these are the things that they address for the race coming up in Miami. And I'm
Mhm.
hoping that it changes at least the race and the way that
Yeah.
they're able to compete in the corners and everywhere else. So they're not just trying to constantly clip and pass each other with boost on the straights.
Exactly. Yeah. We'll take a look at some of those stats here in a second. But another thing just came to mind. It's a little bit of a change this season that may be affecting that viewership is the fact that now you have to have an Apple TV account to watch it in the US.
Mhm.
And I've never had an Apple TV account before this year. And I had to get one simply because I wanted to watch F1. I'm curious how many people were like, yeah, it's not worth it to me to get yet another subscription. So,
I honestly think that for most people, they did switch. Like I
mhm,
switched and you switched, and we're probably a good broad anecdotal case where, like, I'm
mhm.
sure Gary didn't. So, like, maybe 2 out of 3 people that are watching switched. But the reason I switched was the cost of switching wasn't a big deal. Right. It was,
That's
and you
true.
were
It
getting
was
so much more. So it's not like
mhm,
I don't feel like it was a change that wasn't beneficial to the viewers. Right. So
mhm.
you went from having to go to from a standalone app that you still paid almost $120 a year for to then now Apple TV, which is comparable in cost per year, but you're getting a whole platform with series and movies. So I think most people switched. And the stats that I was looking at are international. That wasn't like US viewing.
Oh,
That
true.
was like,
Yeah.
Italy, Spain, and, the people that are watching usually. So, yeah, I can agree with you that it definitely skewed the numbers for the United States, but everywhere else, it's still Sky TV.
Mhm.
So I don't think it
Yeah.
changed.
I think that's a pretty good point. I retract my theory. But
And if anything, like my post about my distaste for the new rules was actually the best post I had about
Yeah.
F1. So it seems that most people are experiencing similar feelings about it.
Nice. Well, yeah, let's take a quick look at what some of the changes are and discuss how much we think it's actually going to improve the rest of the season. So this is, I'll just show you real quick, inside of Daily Driven newsletter issue 119. And then if we go down to the motorsport headlines section, got this link here. Yeah, this one actually has a video. We are not going to watch it, but if you wanted to get a kind of a presentation on some of the things that are changing. But I also used my trusty Perplexity to give me a good breakdown as well. Always like how AI can just summarize it. So here's our quick rundown of some of the things we're seeing that are changing. So the recharge is basically the amount that they need to recover in energy has dropped from 8 megajoules to 7 megajoules, which doesn't sound like a lot, but we'll see if that actually really helps it. And the main thing is that's going to mean that they're going to have to do less harvesting, which makes them go slower in certain conditions where they're lower on power, which is the main reason why we saw that epic crash from Behrman, where he was deploying energy while Colapinto was harvesting energy. There was such a huge speed differential that it was extremely unsafe. So hopefully that improves it, but I don't really know what the difference between 7 and 8 megajoules is going to look like in practice. It also means
consider that it's usually in the corners or in the braking zone that they're clipping or trying to harvest.
Yeah.
And this is now 1 megajoule difference over the course of the lap, right? So it's not for the whole lap, it's for each corner of that lap. So if the track has 14 corners or 11 or 10, that is 10 megajoules difference, or 11 or 12, because it's 1 megajoule less that you need to harvest per corner. So hopefully that changes how they race in the corners, and then there isn't that difference in power, from what I'm at least understanding here.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, and the other advantage is it means that they're going to go back to a little bit more of the flat out racing and less of that harvesting strategy, which has really made it not very fun for the drivers. And Max has been extremely outspoken about how much he dislikes these new cars. So hoping to see a little bit more exciting racing. The other thing is the super clip is increasing from 250 to 350 kilowatts. And if we look up here what the super clip is, so this means max electrical deployment burst. So power increases from 250 to 350 kilowatts, targeting only 2 to 4 seconds of peak deployment per lap. That means that they're able to actually deploy more power within that window of when they need that extra boost.
And hopefully that stops what we've been seeing with the flat out driving, but then the power ends before the straight ends, and then you kind of see them, full blast on the throttle, but the actual speed is like and coming down. So they're like going from like 205 miles per hour to all of a sudden down to like 192 by the time they reach the end, when they're supposed to be increasing. So hopefully this allows them to sustain a higher speed for longer as well, because that's where they've been suffering, is the high speed. They can't maintain it for longer than like a second or two.
Yep, exactly. And then let's see, we've got the boost button capped at plus 150 kilowatts per race. So prevents turbo boost passes with huge closing speeds. So
I think that was 250 before, and they lowered it to 150. And that goes back to what you were mentioning with the close speeds that we saw during harvesting or deployment. And that's where they literally had a difference of almost 150 horsepower.
Yeah, that's quite a bit. The one that I'm excited to see, everybody's been having an issue with this, is their new launch control management. So where was it? Right here. The low power start detection. So all of the drivers have been bogging down their launches, not all of them, but it's been pretty consistent. And the main reason is because the way that these current cars are built is the size of the turbo they're using requires them to hold the RPM at a very specific and steady level to build boost from the turbo to be able to rocket off of the launch. But it's been really challenging for them to do that consistently. So what they're doing is they're incorporating an algorithm which allows, if they get a bad launch due to improper throttle input, let's say, it will be made up for by battery deployment. So there's been a couple of really close calls in the first segment of the season where people barely got off the line while the person right behind them got a great launch, and they'd have to immediately swerve out of the way to not rear end them. And
it was Liam Lawson that stalled, and then Colapinto almost hit him.
Yeah.
And that's like a Red Bull junior team versus what's Colapinto in a Williams right now.
I believe so.
So, and Williams is usually the slower car out of the two, and he's still got a better launch. So yeah, I think this should help. And it also will give the drivers behind the car that had a failed launch lights that indicate that that car had a failed launch, so that they avoid them.
Yeah, so that's what it says here. The linked visual warning system, rear and lateral flashing lights activate on the affected car, so drivers behind immediately know it's slow and can react. So simply from a safety perspective, I think that's super important. And then let's see what else we got. So there's the wet weather specific changes. So anybody who's ever driven an electric vehicle knows how torquey they are, not like a normal internal combustion engine where you have a little bit more of a linear power band that builds. An electric car has access to 100% of its torque at any RPM, technically, at any speed. And so you put the pedal down, or any input that you put into it, it basically accesses that level of power instantly. So it makes it really unpredictable in low grip conditions. If you give it just a little bit of throttle input and you get that instant response, it's just going to spin you out. So it looks like they're incorporating an updated wet running framework, power and tire related, aimed at improving safety and predictability in low grip conditions with the new 2026 cars. And I think Florida is known for afternoon showers pretty much every day. It rains very often there. So I think that's going to be an important one for Miami as well.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see. I think that there's also going to be like dampened power deployment during wet conditions. I don't remember exactly how much, but I know that there's going to be less electrical power deployment under wet conditions.
Yeah, I'm seeing here reduced deployment where overtaking is unlikely.
Yep.
Yeah, so the wet weather threshold is changing.
Yeah.
And then, of course, now with all of these new updates, the cars are going to drive very differently. And so for free practice 1 in Miami, they're extending it from 60 to 90 minutes. So the drivers and the teams have more time to acclimate to these new cars. So that's really the bulk of the updates. But I guess the question is, do you guys think that this is going to be sufficient to kind of bring us back to what made it so exciting to watch in previous seasons? Or do you think this is really kind of a half measure?
I still think it's a half measure, to be honest. But at the same time, the way that F1 is getting viewership is evolving in ways. Like, it's becoming more of a performance and a show as a whole, rather than the race being the highlight of it all. Like in Miami, I think it's more prevalent. In Vegas, it's more prevalent than other races. But you can definitely see, like in Miami, it's all about the celebrities that show up. There's a whole party before the race, there's a party at the end of the race, there's parties in between. So it seems like it becomes kind of like a festival almost, where the race is a part of the festival, but it's no longer the main attraction, or the only attraction, I should say, as it used to be. So in that way, I'm not sure if it will be a detriment for a long time, because maybe the viewers will change. But as far as like the diehard F1 fans that love, the engine as opposed to the electrical components, this is only a half measure. Like we don't want to be messing around with any of the torquey, not torquey stuff, and any of this. Like with an engine, you wouldn't have half of these issues that we just went over. It wouldn't be an issue. There's other things to consider, obviously, but it's a different style of racing. It's a different feel in the car. It's a different
introduces different strategies.
Exactly. And different racecraft altogether. So I feel like it's just changing F1 in ways that the dedicated viewer that they have isn't used to. And like there's certain things that we get excited about that we're not seeing anymore. So unless that comes back with these changes, like too wide into a corner, too wide going into a braking zone, where they're equal in power and just really competing in the racecraft, and who is taking more risk versus who's being a little safer and when to take the risks. That's what we want to see, not who's pressing the deploy button.
Yeah.
Gary, I mean, were you able to watch F1 during the engine heavy era, or like when they were before like the hybrid component?
Yeah, I was able to watch the era before that. Yeah.
So, I mean, what is your take on it? Because it seems like, Rex and I have been really ingrained in it for a while now. So it's harder for us to really appreciate what the average viewer that's not a diehard fan appreciates. Like, what do you see in this? Is it still exciting for you with the way that the rules are now? Are you still watching the races? Wanted to understand what it's like for like a new viewer.
Yeah, well, to me, actually, one of the things I've noticed is I'm seeing innovation continue. That's one. But as innovation goes, we have these hiccups where a lot of people don't like where this is heading. So this actual, let's say, month pause that we have had actually has kind of addressed some of the issues, right? And so, as you point out, yeah, before I feel like the cars first were a lot way bigger. Now they seem a little bit more smaller, lighter as well, as far as specifically in regards to that. And I see also the one thing take that I used to lead on, there's this ESPN broadcaster who mentioned that F1 and NASCAR drivers are not real athletes. So actually, and that was a really big take. So for me, I actually was coming from that kind of school of thought before.
Oh, okay.
Now, actually, I'm seeing, especially there was an episode in which I recall Lewis Hamilton breaking down exactly weight. He recalled his what was it? It was the weight,
Like
and it was a little bit more, physical regimen, yeah. And I thought about it, I'm like, whoa, that is actually to the very technical. And I thought, okay, no, these guys are actually, maybe they're not the athlete, quote unquote, like how we think of athletes, right? But after the way he explained it out, I thought, no, these guys are actually more than just, learning how to just driving fast and that's it. No, there was more to it. So I'm seeing that there's a seriousness to the sport, I guess, to them and then to their physicality compared to before. So that's just my take.
Yeah, it's very interesting actually that you mentioned that. I completely forget that that's usually what people think about when they're looking at a racer. They're like, oh, they're just turning the wheel and stepping on the pedals and like, it's not that physical. Because they're thinking about their road car and like how soft their brake pedal is, not realizing how much power you need to actually step onto the brake for it to stop. And like the brakes won't hold if you don't warm them up properly. So like you really have to stomp on them for a while. And like just the G-forces of like keeping your head up to be able to see into the corner while you're hitting the brake, like your head just wants to, your head just wants to fly forward, and like being able to keep your head up to just see into the corner to make it is just, it's insane. That's why their necks are like the size of their head.
Yeah, they're
look
massive.
At their drivers. Yeah, their necks are just as wide as their head because of the G-forces that they're experiencing, and they have to keep their head up to be able to see into the corner and out of the corner and hit their next apex. So just the physical part of it is insane. And they lose like 10 kilograms of weight per drive, like per race, because they're sweating so much. And like they're literally losing all that through like just water weight, I feel like. So it's insane.
Even more in Singapore because it hits so hot there. I think was it last year that
they were passing out at the end of the race. Some people were quitting. Like some drivers quit mid-race because they just couldn't do it. And some of the engineers had to actually reassure the driver, like, hey, if you're not okay, it's all right. Like you can definitely come back into the garage. Like you're not going to be penalized for this. You can come in. Like
Russell got heat stroke, I think, and I mean even in
couldn't get out of the car. They had to physically lift him out of the vehicle. He couldn't get out.
Yeah, even in normal conditions, just the heat that's generated around the driver and everything. That's why they have those dry ice blowers on them and everything. So it's like the best description I can give it is it's like running a marathon in a sauna, basically.
Yeah, because you're not.
Yeah. Exactly. And, you mentioned before about the brakes, these cars, they don't have brake boosters like your normal road car does. The 100% of the power that goes to the brakes comes from the effort of the driver's foot.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's extremely demanding.
That wheel to slow down from like however many kilometers per hour to like, it's really insane. And I think until you get into that kind of vehicle, you don't realize how difficult it is to drive it.
Yeah.
And I think because there's so many things that take care of all the little nuances for us in our road car now, and it's becoming just much more sophisticated, and we're becoming far more removed from what an analog car really feels like. Like people don't realize what what it's like to drive without traction control, ABS, and everything else. So yeah, props to them. They're definitely
I just had a great idea for a video where maybe we get some like people that think that racing is just sitting and turning a wheel, and we go to a go-kart track in Texas in the summer when it's 110 degrees and say, just do 25 laps.
Yeah, in the go-kart, not even
just in a go-kart. Just do 25 laps. See how you feel.
Yeah, in a full suit. Yeah. No, it's definitely difficult, and yeah, they're athletes, and I feel like that comment was made for the rage bait, to be honest. Like that, yeah. Even that commentator is known for rage baiting. That's his character that he plays. He kind of likes to rage bait athletes in basketball. Now he's doing it for NASCAR and motorsports, which is great for us because usually if he's trying to rage bait you, that is the new sport of choice. He wouldn't attack someone that's not coming up, right? So it's definitely a good sign for us, and I think more and more people are interested in car culture, not just F1. So and to your point, when you were mentioning like even Max now is looking at other things and not just F1. So
yeah. And I guess before we kind of take a side road off to talk a little bit about some of the interesting things that Max is doing, did want to come back real quick and see, because I heard Gary kind of touch on one of them, but a couple of improvements that I am glad to see this year. So one of which is that the cars are finally smaller. It's kind of like, with the last 10, 20 years in road cars, whenever a new version of a car comes out, it's larger than the last. It's like, I remember when Toyota Tundra came out, and it's now smaller than the current Tacoma. And even at the time, is like, oh, wow, they actually built a big truck. And now the new Tundra is massive in comparison. So that's basically the same thing has been happening in Formula One, where every year it's like they're getting bigger and bigger, which also makes it the cars, it's going to affect the it's not a word, nimbleness. It also makes it so there's less room for passing, particularly in tight corners. So I like to see the cars are finally shrinking a little bit in size. And the other thing that I like is, well, they got rid of DRS, so the drag reduction system in the previous years, where you had to meet certain requirements to be able to use it. That's basically where the rear wing opens up to reduce drag so you can go faster in a straight line. Previously, you had to be within 1 second of the car in front and inside of a DRS zone. And I enjoyed that, but now they have their new system where they can basically deploy a form of DRS like really anytime they want, but now it's on both the rear and the front wings. So, it allows them to access a little bit more speed when they need to overtake or defend. So I like that. I think that's pretty cool.
Yeah, and it's now not just for the overtaking car, but it's for the car that's being overtaken as well. They can both kind of flip their wing. Yeah,
exactly.
And it is fun that it is both now the front and the back wings, because obviously the front wing, still creates some drag. So it is interesting to see. I definitely appreciate the fact that, yes, they should be smaller. Like, we will lose Monaco if they're bigger.
Yeah. I don't know how they were able to drive Monaco as it is in the last types of cars.
Well, they had to always kind of like drift around that corner. If you remember, that's how Bottas used to take it every single time in the Mercedes, would just like drift.
The one right before the tunnel?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Like that hairpin was just impossible. That was the last, I think, length difference they could have made before it just couldn't fit anymore. And now they're small enough to actually pass at that hairpin. So it's definitely improving the racecraft in that way, and excitement.
I would say if we get more than 2 overtakes at the Monaco Grand Prix, then we're heading in the right direction. Because the last few years, it's like 1 overtake is pretty common. 2 is an exciting race.
Yeah, and then it's like only in the tire change are they really passing each other. It's like the way you qualify is the way you finish. So everyone's just trying to qualify first, mess up each other's qualifying run instead of
and then not crash.
Yeah, exactly. Like the race went from, during the race day to actually qualifying, and how can I screw people over but still get myself in front. So like it was a very interesting race past couple of years with Monaco because of that.
Yeah. I'm excited to see some of these changes take effect for the rest of the season. And I guess time will tell whether or not it's enough, or whether they're going to need to keep dialing back some of this reliance on the electrical power units.
Well, I'm going to just put it out there, hoping that it becomes reality. We're going to have V8s back, right? At least V8s. Like, I really want V10s, but I think I'm pushing it. I really think that we'll get V8s back because I see Europe dialing back this whole green movement. It seems like they, most of the world realized like, oh, maybe we take a step back. And I'm hoping that it, out into motorsports as well, where they're like, all right, we can go back to, having fun and being loud again.
Absolutely. Hey, and if they really want, they can make their fuel from corn, that's they can be green that way.
Yeah, or plastic
or yellow.
Like the dude that we met, but that's more for diesel engines.
So. Yeah. All right. Well, I guess next I wanted to chat a little bit, since we're on the topic of F1 and we've discussed Max Verstappen. He has been diving a little bit more into the GT World Challenge Europe class of racing. So that'd be like Nordschleife or what do you call it? Nürburgring, and driving like the highest echelon of sports cars. He now has his own race team, which was an offshoot of Verstappen.com. And they've been really, I guess you could say, making waves in the GT world. In some ways good because they are extremely competitive, and then in some ways not so good because they've been disqualified for 2 races they've won and simultaneously been disqualified for now.
Yeah, and I think it's just like them being, a new team and maybe just getting used to being in that world with the new regulations for them. But yeah, it was one of the races. I think they took one pair
extra set of tires.
Yeah, exactly. It was an extra set of tires, and they were first anyway, first by like a 4-minute mark or something.
Yeah.
So, and the other one where it wasn't really a disqualification, I think what happened was during the qualifying for the 24-hour race, there was like a technical issue that they had. I'm not sure if it was considered a disqualification, but because of that, they had to go back in the pits and like took half an hour to fix it. And then he finished 39th instead of first. But he's definitely doing what he does everywhere in GT3 now. I'd really love to see
dominating.
Yeah, I'd love to see him in rally because like rally drivers are just another breed. So seeing him compete in that would be fun because it seems like it's the only way for an F1 driver to get a challenge. And I'm kind of extrapolating from like Kimi, the Iceman, Kimi Räikkönen going into rally racing. And like everyone thought he would dominate, but like he still had a hard time. And we know how talented he was. So I felt like, watching Max in rally would be amazing. But I'm really happy to see him transition to GT3. And F1 is getting kind of nervous because it seems like he's accomplished what he wants to accomplish there, 4-time champion. And like, unless he gets exactly what he wants at this point, I don't know if he's going to stay.
Yeah. And I think in particular, if he doesn't find what he's doing to be fun and enjoyable, he has no reason to stay. I'm sure he's enjoying doing the GT racing a lot more than this season of F1. So yeah, it's there's a lot of rumors floating around that he may be retiring from F1 soon. And given how heavily he's getting into his GT racing career, I think the writing's probably on the wall that this is more a matter of when, not if.
Yeah, especially because he's racing for his own team, like under his own banner, in collaboration with the Mercedes. That's why he's driving the Mercedes, which was interesting to me because like, the rivalry that they had in F1 and, COTA wanting Verstappen to race for Mercedes in F1, obviously. But it is nice to see that they're collaborating for GT3 because, the engineering that the Mercedes team brings is just unmatched, I feel like, at the moment. I think the only other ones are like Porsche. Like Porsche engineering is also incredible. But yeah, I feel like Max will definitely transition, and it's not like he's going to want any other driver to drive under his banner if it's not him. So establishing a team, having all of this effort put in, time spent away from family and everything else as well, because now he's a father to his own child, just the stepchild he had as well. So it's definitely interesting. I don't know how much longer he'll stay in F1.
Yeah. So that just means I'm going to have to get used to going to more GT races.
Yeah.
But
expanding our world a little bit. Yeah.
Yeah. Which I have no problem with because that's fun too. But yeah, on that note, I actually went out to COTA this weekend and had watched the GT World Challenge here in Texas. And that was a lot of fun. I'm trying to see if I can pull up some pictures.
And to our viewers, if you don't know what COTA is, because we use COTA
That's true.
A lot, but COTA is the Circuit of the Americas. It's one of the biggest tracks we have in the United States. F1 races there as well. F1 was actually racing there as the race for America first before Las Vegas and Miami was added to the calendar.
Yeah.
So it's our flagship track. And That's
Yeah,
where
it's the only, what do they call it, tier 1 racetrack in North America
yeah,
that's built specifically for F1 racing. So yeah,
yeah. Two
that's a great track.
being road races that are
Mhm.
converted into tracks. Just to give our viewers some context, like Las Vegas, they shut down the actual strip and they build the track around what exists. Same thing
Mhm.
happens in Miami. It's a road that is being used, a public road that they closed down. So there is a difference in the calendar, and it makes for different types of driving as well when it's a established circuit versus a street race that's literally being transformed into a track over a weekend, which is impressive as well.
Yeah. So let me see if I can share actually some pictures and videos from the weekend. Yeah. Yeah, one of the cool parts, one of the highlights of the weekend was after the race was done, I actually got to take my personal car out on track, and they had a parade lap for people that participated in the SRO car show there. And, I wasn't quite sure what to expect because you say parade lap, I picture a bunch of cars just, crawling around the track, but it ended up being kind of a combination of that, and every so often it would open up and people would just take a corner almost at full speed. So I got a opportunity to drive probably about 4 corners at a higher rate of speed, let's say, on track. That was a lot of fun. But let's see if
Yeah, if you got a video, that'd be awesome.
yeah, curious to see if it's gonna pull it up. I'm gonna have to do it individually.
Yeah, so while Rex is doing that, if you guys want to watch the race with us this weekend, I'll be adding an event and links to a room and the Discord so we can all hang out. I'll drop the Discord link as well in the chat so we can all connect before the show and before the race. And we actually have a pick'em game where you can pick your prediction for first, second, third, fastest lap, qualifying, and 10th place, I believe. And it's free to join, so just come have fun, enjoy the race.
Yeah, and I guess the other thing to mention too is the participants anybody who wins is going to win $25 in USDC. And if you are in our community and you make the best predictions, you'll also get $25 in Buster tokens. So there's up to a $50 prize on the line for those that join the Pick'em game and hopefully do well. So
How many laps you went on your car?
I did 1 lap, and it took me a total of 13 minutes to get around the track.
There must have been a lot of cars.
There were 200 cars on track.
Oh, wow.
And it was frustrating because some people were just crawling along and you weren't allowed to pass. So it would back up everybody behind. But some people were, let's say, had the presence of mind to allow gaps to build in front of them. So what would happen is they'd allow like a few corners to open up, and then people would take turns taking off and actually enjoying the track.
Yeah, the track a little bit, as opposed to just scenic hello.
Exactly.
And what was the average speed?
Oh my gosh, there's no way of saying. I mean, let's just say I think I probably at one point got up to maybe 80 miles an hour on the straightaway. So not fast, but I decided to let people hear my blow off valve that were in my turbo spooling that were watching. Got a lot of good attention because I had the only S chassis on the track, and mine definitely stands out. So all right, let's see. All right, cool, I got it.
Yay! And what was this event for? Just to give people context.
What do you call it? The parade lap thing?
Yeah, like what was this a part of? Like what was the whole event about?
In conjunction with the GT World Challenge there, I think their version of the FIA is SRO. And so they have this SRO collective where if you join it, you can get like into the car show and get prime parking and then be able to take your car on track. So that's what this was. So here we'll show a few pictures from the weekend. So this is AMG GT. Let's see if I can navigate with my, I guess I
And what are those cars? Are those cars of other people, or is that just like cars of the team?
Oh yeah, so these were the actual cars that were competing. The other cool part about it was basically open paddock. So we could walk by while they're working on the cars. There were some situations where engineers are actually wrenching on the cars and spectators were just walking into the garage and looking around. It was kind of wild. I was like, I don't feel like I should be in there. They're not kicking anybody out, but I'm going to give them their space. So, but But yeah, this is in no particular order. This is me on track sitting behind a Tesla Model 3, which was in front of me. Here's some footage of me driving from my phone mounted on my dash. I don't think I was doing anything particularly interesting at the time. Oh, this was when we were all headed back to our cars. So basically we had a driver's meeting to get the rules of what we're allowed to do. And now they're like, okay, everybody go to your car, it's time. And so you're going to see in a minute, like everybody just basically running to their cars, getting ready to go. This was from one of the overpasses. Let me get some volume. Can you hear the audio on this?
No.
No.
No? Okay. Well, I'm not going to mess with it at this point, but
That looked really cool though.
yeah, so they have a few areas where there's a bridge going over the track. And so I was able to get some pretty cool pictures and video there.
That guy was almost over his track limits before.
Where? Oh, no, this guy.
Right wheel.
I got some more videos in here somewhere. Here we go.
And how many cars were on the grid for the race?
I don't recall.
Okay.
Yeah. But yeah, so from that bridge section, like when the cars drive under, how fast they're going and the the sound of the engines roaring, if you're not ready for it, it'll surprise you. And so my wife was like at times not paying attention and a car would pass under and she'd jump. That was funny. But yeah, I've got some pictures of her being like, come on, look cute. And she didn't like that.
Am I gonna be scared in a minute? Yeah.
Yeah. And then this was the highlight of her weekend. You ready?
Yep. Hey.
It's a cowboy with a blue heeler riding a longhorn steer. So she was very happy about that with her broken foot.
Yes. Well.
They had a Ford GT and then the brand new one, which is insane.
Is that the new Ford? That looked like from the side for a second. I thought that was the front looks like a Lamborghini almost.
Yeah, that's a Ford. That's the new Ford GT, like their hypercar, and that thing is incredible. This was a Porsche being worked on and being basically with all the body panels off, so you can see the
engine bay and everything.
Mm-hmm.
Wow, look at those intakes, man. There's huge. Wow.
Yeah, got a Ferrari sitting here, peeking out the bay, and another AMG GT. So I guess that's all the images I've selected to be able to pull up. But yeah, it was a hell of a lot of fun. And yeah, I think I'll be getting a little bit more into the GT series, especially if Max ends up finding his way over there full time.
Yeah, and that's the car he's driving, right? The Mercedes.
Yeah, I think he's driving the AMG GT at this point.
I'd love to see you, Buster, out there and driven Lambo getting out.
Yeah,
there.
It was good. You know, I used the opportunity to do some networking and talk with different vendors while I was there, share what we're doing with the Driven Vehicles app. And in fact, well, I'm going to go ahead and we're going to wrap this up. We're at exactly an hour right now. But I figure before we do that, let's make sure I find the right screen to share. Here we go. All right.
So you were at several events, right? This was the third or fourth event, I believe you've gone to so far.
At COTA?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I think it's number 4. I can't remember. Yeah, but I've been every opportunity I can since moving out here. I'm gonna be out at COTA. I also went to a Ferrari Club show at Lake Austin on Saturday, Porsche Club show, same place last Saturday. So I'm really, I'm making my rounds, getting out there, talking to everybody I can about what we're building with the Driven Vehicles app. So yeah, we've got the Miami Grand Prix right here. I notice, let's see, it looks like, Gary, you just have it listed. Oh, no, it is. You've got it Friday to Sunday. Awesome. All right, I stand corrected. So
we're going, Rex. We're going.
Hey, you know what? I'll say I'm going because I'm going to be watching it.
Yeah.
And yeah. But yeah, so you'll be able to see all of the races. We're going to be trying to be on top of everything that we can possibly discover ourselves, be it races, car meets, car shows, rallies, what have you, to keep this website current. But the other thing is we really want to make sure that our community is contributing to this and really starting to, take advantage of it as a resource. So we invite everybody who's watching, if you're into car culture in your local town, I can almost guarantee you have a Cars and Coffee that gathers every Sunday. or at worst every other Sunday. So find out where your local Cars and Coffee is, get it listed. And we, in the next day or so, are going to be releasing a beta tester program. So if you want to try out the latest features as they launch, join our Discord server. There's going to be instructions there that we're going to be announcing soon on how you can apply to become a beta tester. And then just a few steps you have to take with every beta bounty that we'll put out. But you'll be able to earn Buster tokens for your contributions and helping us acquire feedback to improve our platform. So please do, if that's interesting to you, head on over to our Discord server, and we'll be announcing that very shortly. Is there anything else you guys want to look at real quick on this before we call it a day?
No, actually, I just wanted to thank the ones that have already participated and added some events. Phil, one of the biggest contributors, I'd say, in our community. One of the first ones to add his trip, hoping to add his shop as one of the first vendors as well. Thank you, Phil, for all your feedback. Crypto Fam Radio has tried the cruise option, has posted a bunch of pictures as well. Thank you for all their feedback as well. He received some rewards in Buster. And Rachel has posted her event, and we watched her experience on the last podcast that we did together. So I'm looking forward to all the other feedback we can gather. Would also love feedback from people that are observing, right? So if you don't have to necessarily give us feedback from posting, you can also give us feedback from what it's like to use the site, or how it was when you clicked on an event, what you would like to see that you weren't able to do yet. So we'd love to get feedback from both sides, not just the people creating the events, but people attending events or viewing the images that are provided or the trips. We'd love to collect feedback from both. So,
Yeah, I mean, this whole new feature set is only a few weeks old, and we've only recently started getting in front of more people to test and consider using for their clubs, their events, and everything that they do. So yeah, now is the time for us to really dial in the UI UX, figure out what features are going to be most valuable to our ideal users, so that way we can really take it to market in the next few weeks and really start building out, honestly, what I think is going to be the best car culture resource on the internet. I mean, we've looked at so many competitors out there. There's a lot of people doing interesting things, but I feel like the scope and the vision that we have for what we're doing at Driven Vehicles is like, can't even hold a candle to what we're going to accomplish. It's going to be pretty incredible. Lots of opportunities to build your crew, build your network, get involved, earn Buster and other rewards, and also, dive deeper down the rabbit hole of what we're doing with blockchain technology to unlock ownership of real world assets, beyond the event side, what we're doing with the tokenization of rare collector cars. So we got a lot of exciting things coming, been making some amazing progress, and want to thank the team for all their hard work, and want to thank our community for helping to kind of steer us in the right direction and teach us what it is they want to see out of our platform. So, well, do we have any questions before we close this out? I know, Gary, you've probably been watching the chat like a hawk. Do you have any questions that have come up during the course of this live stream?
I mean, so far, people are just engaged in regards to what we've been discussing for F1, right? So far, that's what we have. No questions, but we did drop the links to the Discord. We did drop links to the app or the Driven Vehicle site, so you guys can go ahead and check those out. Make sure to join the Discord Labo. That's where we're at always. So if you have any questions what we're building, you have any questions in regards to, the site or car, meetup, just hop on in and let us know. It's always great to chat with other people who are not just, automotive enthusiasts, but also, they're either into motorsports or they're just casually just want to know more exactly what we're building. So make sure to join us. The links are once again there on the chat. So also in our bio. So make sure you follow us, and we'll see you inside Discord.
Yeah. And don't forget to also sign up for the Daily Driven newsletter. We've got issue number 120 coming out on Saturday. Definitely recommend going and checking out 119. This is a really interesting issue, covering yet another GTR. But once you see this one, you'll see exactly why not only the GTR is one of my all-time favorite cars, but why this one deserved to be featured here. So check it out, subscribe, and we'll catch you in a future episode. Slava, is there anything you want to say to sign us out?
See you guys in Discord, and let's engage in some pick'em. Excited for the weekend and the F1 race. So I'm glad we're back. We took a month off. So we'll see you guys in the Discord and hopefully the watch party over the weekend.
All right. Sounds good. All right. Cheers, everybody. Thanks. And we'll catch you next time.